I read a lot of fantasy this month, and I finished up a lot of series that I started this year, and I'm really happy to say that I read every single one that was on my TBR. I read 48 things in December. I'm gonna say things because some of them were novellas that were short, like less than 100 pages or just a little bit more than 100 pages, and then some were manga. A couple of them were just like audiobooks. So these are all of the stories I consumed in December. All right. For manga, I read Smoking Behind the Supermarket with You, and I will just say this is very cute. He doesn't know that she's the cashier that works in the supermarket that they smoke behind almost every night. This is just a story of them falling in love, and it's so cute because he's so shy, but he acts his age. He's not a super immature character, and she's not either. She's actually pretty cool. I like her. She gets so giddy over him, and this is so cute. They're older characters. I've been seeing quite a bit where people want stories with older characters. I swear people are sleeping on manga. There's so many manga like this that have romance stories with older characters, and it's just yearning. It's so cute and wholesome, and you can tell that they really like each other. So these were a really fun read, and it was kind of funny because the last one made this like the perfect winter read, because the last one you can see it does take place in the winter season. So it was really nice to like have a manga that took place in the season I was reading it in. So if you're looking to read this now, the first 3 are translated. There's more that's coming out. They're not out yet, so this is an uncompleted series. These were very cute, and I will be continuing this series. I enjoyed it very much. It's like I said, it's just wholesome. The only thing that I do have to say about this is, how is he not clocking her? There must be like some type of anime magic happening here. That's like the same thing as Tuxedo Mask not realizing that Sailor Moon is Usagi. These were the books that I finished off the year with. There's 5 volumes in this shoujo manga called Imotoki. I gave the first one 4 star for nostalgic reasons. This is funny because this was actually the first ever manga I ever read. I ended up thrifting this one, but I had the other 4 because the first one I was able to check out at my high school library. I was finally able to get the first one, so I thought it would be fun to do a reread of this just for nostalgia reasons. The story is ridiculous. The situations that they get themselves into are ridiculous. It reads like Wattpad fan fiction, but I love it. Tampopo and Koki are in love and they don't realize it. She gets bullied and he saves her, and then they start a flower club together, and the story goes by really fast. I remember for some reason this taking me longer to get through in high school. Maybe it was because I was reading it. Oh god, I'm dating myself here. I was reading it as the library was getting the volumes, or the volumes were coming out in English at my bookstore. So maybe that's why. So I would savor each one and take longer to read it. I was able to like bang these out really quick to hit the 200 goal. If you like shoujo manga, especially older ones from the early 2000s, I would give this a try. It's not the best, but it's definitely not the worst. And if you just want good, ridiculous fun, then go ahead, go for it. The last manga I read in December was Uzumaki by Junji Ito. Junji Ito is a master of horror. I love his art. Like the art in this, those are 2 people. Those are all of their body parts. Well, okay, there's more. There's another person. They morph together into a spiral. This is a small town that becomes consumed with spirals. I think a lot of people recognize this piece by Junji Ito. I'll put a screen capture from the Uzumaki anime that came out recently. The episode that had this in it was actually animated so well. I'm so disappointed that the rest was just so lackluster, especially when you have such great source material to work with. They could have done so much with that, but this is so creepy. Like the eyeball, the spirals. There are people that turn into snails in this because a snail's shell looks like a spiral. The spiral is all consuming. It consumes their minds, their bodies, their lives. Everything becomes a spiral. I read 8 Christmas books this month, and 2 of them were DNF. So first I'm gonna go over the ones that I kept that I think you guys should know about. This was a book of the month pick for me. I rated it 2 stars. I did not like it. So the first half of this book, it went super well. The characters have great banter throughout the whole book. I think the characters had wonderful banter until they fell in love. This might be a little spoilerly. I don't know. This might spoil the book a little bit, but there were parts in this book where flashbacks were used used as a convenient way to make the plot move forward. I think it was overused. It was overdone. It was a cheap way to make the plot move forward and to make their relationship move forward. And the ending was so dumb. I hated the ending to this book, and I don't understand why people are comparing this to Knives Out. Knives Out is actually good. This is the first half. Great. Loved it. The second half, what the what? No. It was like the book was trying to be too many things at once. Not my type of book. The next book is The Christmas Tree Farm by Lori Gilmore. This was another book that I didn't dislike it enough to DNF it, but it was around the ending again, around the halfway point where I just started disliking the book. This one is the third book in the Dream Harbor series, and I like these books in between like more intense books. I think they're really fun palate cleansers. They're spicy, there's romance. I don't mind them. I like them. This one, I did not like the way the characters were treating each other. When I sign up for a Christmas romance book, I sign up for cheesy romance in a wonderful festive Christmas town, which the town was festive. It was Christmassy. I loved the descriptions of the town. It was so cute. But the characters, the couple in this, they were horrible. Kira, the FMC in this book, she talks so horribly to Bennett, and Bennett is like this teddy bear that just takes punches and doesn't demand any respect, even though he's like, I love you. It's like insta love in the worst possible way. I don't even know what this was trying to be. I thought I was in for a cute Hallmark read with some spice, but it was just horrible romance tropes that I didn't like personally. The rest of the Christmas books I'm going to talk about are horror books. I gave them all 4 stars, and I highly recommend every single one. They were all a really fun or educational read. I have one book that was nonfiction, and I learned a lot from it. This is The Dead of Winter. Beware of Krampus and other wicked creatures. There are lots of creatures, especially in Europe, that come around in Christmas, like the Yule Cat, Krampus. I read this because I wanted to learn more about those. What's really fun about this book is Sarah Clegg, the person who wrote it, went to these towns, and she went to the events that celebrate these various creatures. Like she went to a Krampus event, a Carnival event. There was one for the Yule Cat. The first part of each chapter is her describing the event, describing what's going on, where she's at, what's happening during the event, like the Krampus one where they go around and beat people up with sticks and stuff. And the Carnival one was so fun. And then the next half of the chapter, she goes into like the history of the creature and how they're celebrated now. This is a really educational read, especially if you like the darker, witchier side of Christmas and want to learn more about it. I think this is 100% a read that you should get if that's something that interests you. Krampus. This is by Brom. What's really interesting about Brom, he makes the illustrations that are in his book. Hold on, I'm pretty sure he drew these. Why are these so good? Also, why is Santa so beefy? This is the story of Krampus and Santa. Basically, they have a hundreds-of-year-old rivalry, and in this world, the gods get weaker when people don't believe in them. I think that's a pretty common trope. The more worship or the more people believe in a god, the more powerful they are. So that's kind of what's happening here with Santa and Krampus. People don't celebrate Yule anymore, so Krampus is weak. And our main character, Jesse, finds Krampus, and Krampus takes him into his fold. Basically, they just fight back against the evil Santa Claus because Santa Claus is evil and Krampus is actually good. I think the thing that convinced me the most to read this is this took place in a town that I actually grew up around. I didn't grow up there, but I knew people from there. I went to visit friends there. I basically grew up in the same area where this town is, and it's in Boone County, West Virginia. I didn't feel like he was trying too hard or to make anything look bad. He just wrote it the way it is, the way I think maybe he knows it or something. And it wasn't really creepy. It was just a fun read, especially during Christmas. Going off of that, the next read I had was Secret Santa. This is a story that involves a creature that is of Krampus, but it's not Krampus. I think it's called a Precht or something. So basically, in this story, we have Lucy, and she is going in to interview for a new job. And when she does, her boss kicks the bucket while she's there. So his son takes over the company, and she somehow weasels her way in. Even though she wasn't initially selected for the job by the former boss, the boss's son is like, yeah, okay, fine, you can work here. Sure. Lucy starts working at this publishing company. Her coworkers do not like her, so they start playing very mean-spirited, dangerous pranks with her. It's during Christmas, so they have a secret Santa exchange, and Lucy somehow ends up with this creature. Lucy starts suspecting that all of the bad things and all of the pranks and everything bad that's happening to her are caused by this creature or this gift. So we just kind of follow the story from there, and it's very twisty and absurd, and I loved it. It was really fun. And the last Christmas horror book I read was Everything is Temporary. So in this book, we are following a dual timeline almost, except one is in like a story form, and then the other one is real life, where this guy is accused of unaliving someone, so he has to go through the whole trial process and stuff like that. It doesn't really go much into the trial process, just the things leading up to that. So to explain himself, Tom, the main character, tells his wife to read a book that he wrote called Everything is Temporary. He said, this will prove me innocent. It'll show you why everything happened the way it did and why it wasn't his fault. His wife reads it and finds out about a mysterious talking Christmas tree and Santa gone wrong and Mrs. Claus is wacky. This was ridiculous in the best way. It was actually kind of creepy too. I got a little creeped out by this. So for that, I gave it 4 stars. It was a fun read. The going back and forth wasn't distracting at all. So I definitely think for next year, if you're wanting a good horror book, any of the ones that I just showed you, I think these are great for Christmas. I just realized the color scheme of my model and the chair look like Christmas. Now we are going to be going into fantasy, and I'm going to start out with one of my TBR books, which was The Map of the Otherlands. This is the sequel to The Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett, and this is just a continuation of the story. This definitely has all the feels of Encyclopedia of Fairies, except it's in Cambridge, and then they go to another small town. Emily is a very smart, mousy girl that is pretty introverted, but she's also really smart. I like her as a main character. I think she's really fun and relatable to read. There are higher stakes in this, and there's fae. These are the best type of fae for me. These are like actual fairies that are creepy, they're mischievous, and Emily in this book, she is a badass. I loved it. I loved like the plot twist at the end. It was really fun. It kind of left off on a bit of a cliffhanger. Whether or not I like this book would determine if I would read the next book that comes out next year in this series, which is the Compendium of Lost Tales, and I will be continuing it because I enjoyed this so much. Everyone in their mother is going to know this trilogy. This is the most iconic trilogy, and that is the Lord of the Rings trilogy by J.R.R. Tolkien. This was something that I've always wanted to read. I don't know why it took me so long in my life to finally consume these books. Would this be considered a modern classic? Because so much fantasy had its roots taken from these. I don't think there's anything that I could criticize about it. I feel like this is a really important piece of fantasy that I think any fantasy lover should read. The reason why I wanted to read this is because I'm writing my own fantasy book. I really just wanted to go back to the bare basics, go back to the classics, and this was one that was high on my radar to do that with. I love the friendships in this book. I love the messages of hope, and that no matter what you can do, no matter what you put your mind to, no matter how small you think you are, you can make the biggest difference. And I just love that. I love the characters. I love the world. I love the lore, the elves, Gandalf, the Hobbit. The one thing I will say is if you don't like long-winded writing, some of the paragraphs go on a bit much about information you may not think you need. It's interesting, but my suggestion would be if you don't want to consume the writing in these books, I'm not saying the writing is bad, but it might not be for everyone. I would suggest you listen to audiobooks, particularly the ones that were narrated by Andy Serkis. His narration is so good. I love his voices for like Smeagol and Gollum. He does all the voices. It's so good. You get the iconic lines. It feels like he's reading you a storybook. The way these were told. The ending. This. Wait, no, this one. The ending in this. What? That was the ending. So I don't know why it just got me completely off guard. For some reason, I think I have watched these movies, but I don't remember them, and I don't think I've seen The Return to the King because I wasn't expecting that ending at all. And then I was told that because I was buddy reading these with someone, and this person watched the movies, they know the movies, they love the movies. This person said that there was so much more, especially in Return to the King, about the hobbits that were not included in the movie that made a lot of things make sense, and now I want to go watch the movies. So I might make that something that we do in the Discord for movie night. I probably should just give him a 5-star. I think I gave Return of the King 5 stars. I should probably go on to the next book. This one was a book from my TBR. This is Bookshops and Bone Dust, and it was cozy, just like Legends and Lattes. Cozy, fun read with a little tiny bit of a romance. I liked Legends and Lattes more than I liked Bookshops and Bone Dust, but it was still a good book. Viv goes to Merc because she got injured by a necromancer, and it's basically just her relaxing at a bookstore. She picks up reading and she has a little romance. It's very cute. The ending was very satisfying, and it's a good lead up to Legends and Lattes. I read this around the beginning of December, so it was like perfect for that time of year. The next books I read were the last 2 books, The Castle in the Air and The House of Many Ways. House Moving Castle, I love this book. I give it a 4-star. It's just like it has all the characters from the movie. I had so much fun reading this. What I didn't expect in the next 2 books, these two, is that Sophie and Hal were not the main characters in these books. This one had to do with a main character and a magic carpet and a genie, and this one had a young girl from a well-to-do family that has to look over a wizard's house, and the house has lots of different passages, and it can go backwards in time in some rooms, and it leads to different houses or areas. What caught me off guard about these two is that Sophie and Hal don't show up until either the middle or the 3rd act of the book, and I thought Sophie and Hal, I thought this whole series would be centered around them, but after the first book, the next 2 books don't have Sophie and Hal as the main characters. My favorite parts of these books were when Sophie and Hal showed up, and it was really cool because we did get to see how Sophie and Hal's relationship evolved over the years through the lens of people that were in their outer circles. So I thought that was really cool, but I wanted the story of Sophie and Hal, not of these other characters. So I didn't find myself caring too much about these. I didn't dislike them, but they were not what I expected. So I think I gave them 4 stars. Don't go in thinking that you're gonna be just getting Sophie and Hal for all 3 books. Okay, I'm really excited to talk about this. The Hero and the Crown. This is the prequel to The Blue Sword. This is one of my favorite books I read in 2024. This is about a princess named Erin, and it reads like classic fantasy, but she becomes a dragon slayer. There's magic, there's kings and queens, and it is YA written in its best form. I read The Unmaking of June Farrow. This is the last book that was on my TBR, and I read it. I enjoyed this so much. This kind of has a dual timeline thing going on. June is going backwards and forwards in time for a certain reason, and basically June's grandmother dies. The women in her family are cursed, and June does not want this curse to continue, so she swore herself off from love. I've not had the best luck with time travel stories. I read The Ministry of Time, and I disliked that book so much. I felt like it was trying to do too much. This one had just the right amount of everything. It was almost a 5-star. The writing, good. The characters, very fleshed out. The story, solid. This is the last fantasy series I read in December. I read this on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. I got through these books in 2 days. That's how much I enjoyed them. And that was the Caraval series. And the reason why I read these is because I wanted to read... Hold on, you'll see why I wanted to read this. So we have Caraval, Legendary, and Finale. They're young adults, so the writing is super spaced out and the words are kind of big. So they look bigger than what they actually are. But the reason why I wanted to read these is because I wanted to read Spectacular. It's a holiday novella set in the world of Caraval. But Caraval, basically there's these two sisters, and one of the sisters writes to the master of the Caraval games every year, and then one year he finally answers. She and her sister somehow end up at Caraval and they play the games, and the winner of Caraval gets a wish granted. Now this is a romantasy. This was like perfect for Christmas. It just gives Christmas vibes. It's whimsical, it's magical, it reads like a fairy tale. I love Legend and the other love interests in these books. I think it was such a fun read. It put me in the festive mood because the story itself is kind of festive because of the Caraval games. But I read those because I really wanted to read Spectacular, and I was like, okay, this will be the perfect holiday read. But it turned out the whole series was the perfect holiday read. This is basically just a holiday special. It's like the beach episode, but make it Christmas. Their town is like in a snow globe. Hold on. First of all, the illustrations in this book are so good. Hold on. Their town that they're in the book, it turns into a snow, like it's in a snow globe. This is Christmas wrapped up neatly with pretty writing in a book. It was a short read. It wasn't anything spectacular, even though the name is Spectacular, but I enjoyed it very much. It was kind of just a nice parting gift from this series. And the illustrations in this, like I said, look at them, they're so cute. Oh, well. Oh my god. We did it. Oh, I also finished up the Stormlight Archives, but I've already talked about that in previous videos. In case you don't want to go back and watch those, which I think you should. I really like those videos. But I finished Wind and Truth and all the other Stormlight Archives book, and I went on my Brandon Sanderson journey this year, and I enjoyed it so much. I think I rated almost all of his books either 4 or 5 stars. So I think that just cements how much I enjoyed my Brandon Sanderson and my Cosmic journey this year. I think all I have left to read are Elantris and Mistborn Era 2. Thank you guys so much for watching. This video is going to be pretty long, so thank you if you watched all the way through. Thank you so much. Thank you for spending your day with me, and I hope you guys had a wonderful, fantastic, safe new year, and I hope you reach all of your goals in 2025. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!